Page 99, halftime band. On page 98, they're introducing you to sharps and flats. Sit down, relax. We'll take this carefully. It all makes sense. Point is, we're going to start using the black keys. We're going to start using all the keys on the piano, because up to now we've only used the white keys. First, they introduce you to what a half step is. A half step is the shortest distance between any two notes in our harmonic system we use. A half step's as close as you can get. Piano, it is from one key to the next, white or black. And now we're using all the keys. So it's like here, if I go up a half step, it's here. It's the next key up, white or black. Go down a half step, it's here. Because there's no key in between. So I can go up half steps and go down half steps. Keep that in mind. You need to know what a half step is. That's pretty simple. It's just the next key up or down. Well, a sharp, and they give you a sign like that. It's a tic-tac-toe or a pound sign. Today's environment, they call it a hashtag. You call it whatever you want. We call it a number sign, various signs. It simply means you raise the note up a half step. Up, sharps go up. Flats go down, sharps go up. We'll get to flats later, just sharps go up. So if I have a C, and I want a C sharp, I go up. That is a C sharp. Now keep in mind, every key on the piano has multiple names. So don't let that intimidate you or bother you in any way. It makes sense, we'll get there. Just know that this C sharp is other things too, but it's a C sharp. If I have an A, I want an A sharp, I go up. If I have an E, and I want an E sharp, yes, there is such a thing, I go up. I know it's an F, but it's also an E sharp. That's where I said all the notes have multiple names. Well, there you are. So that's sharps. Now for what we're going to do, typically the fingers that would be used, we're in various positions, whatever they are, a G position or a C position or whatever. Whatever finger would play the white key, we'll use the same finger then to play the black key. Let's look on halftime band. In the second measure, in the top staff, we're in G position here, and you're going to play the C, the first note, C, and then there's a rest, and then you have another C with a sharp in front of it. The sharp comes before the note, tells you what's going. When we say it, we say the sharp after. We say C sharp, not sharp C. So it's C sharp. We're simply going to use the fourth fingers on the C, so I'm going to use the fourth finger on the C sharp. So it's here and then here again. Now that's not always the case. You don't always use the same finger. But for now, that's what we're going to do. That's usually the default. That's your first choice when you're trying to figure out fingering. That's what you do first. In the left hand, in that same measure, we're down here in this G position, way down here. And you have a C in this second measure here. And then it's C sharp. Again, I'm going to use the index finger to play it. Here. And that's the way it works. And that's about as complicated as sharps get. I mean, that's it. So, halftime band, 4/4 time. We already know we're in G position, 2 octaves apart. So that's 1 octave, that's 2 octaves. Remember, an octave is G to G, A to A, C to C, that's an octave. So now we're just 2 octaves apart. The notes on the hands are very similar, so I'm going to take both hands at the same time. I mean, you can take it one at a time if you wanted to make sure, but it will shorten the video up a little bit. I'll do them both together. Because they're playing the same notes, so you have a 1, rest, 3, rest, 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 rest. You get the idea? Third line down, it changes a little. You hear? Now it's opposites because the hands are playing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Idea? But at the end, the last measure, you're here. That last note in the left hand has an 8V8 under it, so we go down an octave. Use whatever finger you want. I use 5th because it's the closest one to it. Doesn't matter. And articulation, there's not a lot going on articulation. You have an accent occasionally and some slurs. So basically when the notes are next to each other, no rests around, you just connect them. So in the first line there, in the second measure, you hear and then a rest, and then slurs. Just connect them. Plus the C sharps are accented. Get a little extra. And the second line and the last 2 measures where you have these slurs, just lift up between each slurs, fine. Now, I suggest at the end of the second line, when you're coming that last measure, when you come here, I suggest you go ahead and connect that A to the G, the next note at the next line, here. So let it lead into it. There. So just pretend the slur line went all the way to the G and connect them. So watch the accents and the slurs, that's fine. Well, there's one other thing I need to mention on the sharps. There's a rule that goes, when they introduce a sharp or a flat or a natural sign, we'll get to these other signs in a minute, they're called accidentals. And there's a rule that applies to accidentals, and we follow it. The music has evolved over the years, so the rule has changed. And people don't agree on the rule. Good luck. I've been on both sides of that conversation. I don't care to bother. But basically the rule is that when they introduce a sharp or a flat in a measure like they're doing here, that applies from that point on to the rest of the measure. And then when you get into the next measure, it doesn't apply anymore. It goes away. So look at the last line. In the second measure, you have 2 C's here, a C sharp, and then another C. Well, that sharp sign still applies because it's still in the same measure, so it still goes. It's a C sharp. And then in the next measure, you get that C. That's a C natural because it's a different measure. So it's for that staff. Each staff is independent. They got to have their own sets of sharps and flats, but for that staff, for that measure, it applies. The difference of opinion is it just for that note? Is it for that C only? Or is it for any C in that measure? Could they have put another C? Could that last C be in a different C, say up here? Would it be a C sharp too? And that's where people don't agree. Piano players, generally, we want to see a sharp sign with each octave that it appears. Because piano music gets so involved and confusing, we really need the sharp sign, whether it's needed or whether it's required or not. We need that sharp sign. But if you get a violin player or something like that, they will tell you it doesn't matter what octave it is. If it's a C sharp, it's a C sharp. It could be anywhere. So people don't agree on that, never have. I tell you this because if you happen to be in a conversation with somebody talking about it, they may have a different opinion than what you've been taught, and you need to be aware that people don't agree. Dynamic-wise, we're MF, and that's sort of both hands here. Moderately loud, somewhere in there, you decide. 2, but the accent takes it up to loud on that one, for that one note. And then when you get down to the third line, you go up a little louder to loud. Both hands. Both hands are accented. I don't know that we need accents on it because you're already loud, but all right. The accent there, that one, we need that one. But these others, I don't know. And so you finish it loud. Now in the last line, second to the last measure, all the notes are accented. They're already loud. Well, there is a style of interpreting accents. Not everybody follows it, but it's a style, so you can think about it. Is when you have a series of notes like this, each one accented, you separate the notes slightly, just slightly, and it helps to bring out the accent, I guess. Some people do that, some people don't. I do it sometimes and other times not. It depends on the music and what I think sounds better or feels better to me in that particular situation. That's called interpretation. You interpret it because you have a lot of leeway in interpreting how you do this. Even though all these instructions are here on the page, there's a lot more you can do than just this. So in time, you'll learn to interpret things and feel things, and you have your style of playing or whatever. So on these, whether you connect them or not, I'll leave that up to you. I'm going to go ahead and separate them because it does help to bring out the accents, and because of the style of this piece, it's more of a bouncy piece anyway. There's a note at the bottom where you can transpose this into the C pentascale or the C position. So instead of here, you just kind of, I guess you go here, whichever, I mean, go wherever you want. And you just pretend that this is a G, and this is a G, and you just, and you play the whole thing up here. I'll leave that up to you. Also, there's a note at the bottom about the fourth. And the interval of the interval of fourth, I explained intervals earlier, and it doesn't matter what the interval is. I told you how to figure them out. If you have an interval, you simply count up to figure out what it is. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be a fourth. Well, if you look at the third line and second measure in the right hand, you have a G and a C. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a fourth. You'll learn to recognize these intervals in music. And over time, these bits and pieces I'm telling you about will come together to form the picture, and you'll, oh, I understand why I need, otherwise it's, what do I care if it's a fourth or not? Well, right now you don't. But I'm just telling you, be aware of it. Speed-wise, with pep. Okay, well, that depends on how much coffee I've had. 2. And it's the overall feel of it. It's not the beat, it's the overall feel of it. It's got feel pep. 2. Third line down. With pep, whatever that is. I'd like to play it with you very slowly without pep to double check the notes and the rhythms. Not going to do dynamics, but I will do the accents and try and get those in. So I'll give us 4 counts, so let's do it together slowly. 1, 2, ready, go. Rest, 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 rest.